How are you?
How are you, Jim?
Hey, what's up?
So, here's the question. How much are you spending on wigs?
None. My friend bought it too for me.
Well, that was
Well, I
nice.
guess I only spent, well, parties, whatever that party place is. in
Oh,
town,
yeah.
it's only like $20. So I got the blue one myself.
I
but
just
she
wanted to
got me
make sure
this
you
one.
weren't spending the kids' inheritance.
I'm doing that elsewhere. Yes. And then I've already decided, maybe it should just go to my grandson instead.
Well, there you go.
That kid doesn't need anything.
You may have to log out, it's not you.
Is it you?
Not on me, Roger. I don't know, but I did.
You have muted yourself?
I don't know. It unmuted. This is for Roger. 80s hairband?
Just for you, Roger.
What is it? When you get, when your hair grows back, you're gonna donate it to him, aren't you?
Yeah. College years. Here we go.
He saw it about 7:20, but she is.
I heard he had long hair in college.
You heard Phil had long hair.
I heard you had long hair in college.
I did. My mom wouldn't let it get very long.
Your mom was?
There were a few times people crossed the streets and walked on the other side as I went down there.
They do that now.
That's my preference, man.
Yeah, you do it every time, I got it.
He was just talking finals week when he forgot to do the personal hygiene thing.
Oh, that's right. They have to do big peach.
What do you need?
Oh, I got my extension cord. You know, those chargers. They're the.
And stuff there. I will sit over, you can never mind.
I was just right here.
I don't want to push you.
You got her lined out there, Jill, or you need some?
No, I got her, just as long as I can get it open. Yeah, got it.
So where'd you get that hair?
My friend ordered it for me.
Oh my. I like the real thing though under there.
I dyed it.
You did?
Oh, it's red now.
That thing get hot.
Well, your 2-month anniversary.
It is, yes, yes.
Been that long already? Wow.
Yes, I guess it has. Kelsey's keeping me on my toes. Yes.
Let's see, you did this one time.
Where for? You know?
I'm honestly surprised
You.
nobody found
You're
it
running
for
the
it.
show.
Well, yeah.
Lori said to go ahead and start
Yeah,
it
he
out.
said he was up north.
So,
Who was?
My husband is spraying up north. Justin was spraying by my house earlier.
I had to request.
Oh, I was like, what is this? What's this around here?
well,
It's not in the rain though, is it?
I think we're gonna have another person or two show up here in a little bit, so we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order to stay on track. We'll start out with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item 1.3, approval of tonight's agenda.
Move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? several items on the consent agenda for tonight. Anybody have anything on there that they have a question about or concerns with?
There's nothing really, I mean, it's just normal stuff, is it? I mean, there ain't anything that.
Yeah, there's a few grants to accept, fortunately. And other than that, no, it's pretty much standard stuff.
Financial.
Yeah. It looks fine. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Wait 1 second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ready to.
Okay. Item 3.1. We have someone that would like to address the board. This is Megan Heckeroff. Is that how you pronounce that?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying to follow the rules, so I did print off what I am going to read. I don't know if I have enough for everyone, so you might have to share.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Am I okay to take my mask off, or would you prefer me to do?
Go right ahead.
All right. Good evening. My name is Megan Heckroth. My residence is 134 South Country Estates Drive. And ultimately tonight, I am kind of here to try and urge the board to hire that third kindergarten teacher. I'd like to start off by reading the vision statement. Excellence in education, maximizing student potential. Some of you may have heard by now that I started a petition late last week. And although I am here alone tonight, I am not alone when wanting what's best for our kids and staff. This petition was signed 57 times in a few days, and several of those signatures came from parents of the current and incoming kindergarten classes. And I hope tonight you guys are willing to take the time to listen to the community for which you are making these decisions. We stand with the teachers of Southeast of Saline to encourage you to hire that third kindergarten teacher. Kindergarten is a vital step for these children, and it is the foundation for their education. Majority of Southeast classes have 3 teachers, and we should continue to support that. Not only is it in the best interest for the kids and their education, but for the well-being of the district. Having only 2 classes moving forward will cause issues with funding, extracurricular activities, sports, enrollment, and staffing numbers, which consequently affects the type of education our children will be receiving. We all want what's in the best interest of our children, friends, and neighbors. Understanding the uncertainty of the pandemic and the reluctancy to hire and bring in that third teacher last year's enrollment numbers and the demographics could have used 3 classes. And now, for the second year, current numbers are showing a third teacher is needed. Please consider hiring that third teacher and allow the children, the staff, and the district to meet their maximum potential. We are all proud to be Trojans. I appreciate your time and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's move to 4.1, summer food program.
I've given you a very generic budget for doing a summer food program. The federal government has extended the summer feeding program under the same guidelines as last summer, which does make the program pretty self-sufficient. It should be able to balance throughout the course of the summer. I've given you some estimates there. The income we would see if we have a average of 200 meals served per day for the 45 days of breakfast and lunch that the kitchen staff is proposing through June, July,
Breakfast and lunch?
breakfast and lunch. And the way we would do that is we would include tomorrow's breakfast with today's lunch in the same bag so that it did not take two distributions. That would,
That's great.
now, whether or not the breakfast makes it to tomorrow, that's another story.
At least they're eating.
But at least they're eating, they would have that potential. It would be something that would keep until next week. You have some estimates there of wages. They have been rounded up to account for the cost of employment, withholdings and capers and all of those types of things that figure in. Food budget, and that balances out fairly well, whereas it should be a self-sufficient program through the summer. In talking with Kim, she is expecting to run it pretty much the same as last year, as long as the numbers in KIP and Mentor support pickup spots in those locations. We would consider all 4 locations. There was, at the end of the summer, we did scale back because of the lack of participation. But that will all be based on how many come to each of the sites. Are there any questions about what we're proposing?
Did we do 11 to 11:45 last year? About that time schedule? Was that what it was?
It was longer than that. It was at least an hour.
So 11 as well?
It was 11:30 to 12:30. And depending on what we do for summer youth this summer, which we are anticipating being full steam ahead at both locations, and what we do with the potential of summer school here at Southeast, we may adjust that a little bit front to back. A lot of these proposals today are connected. The summer foods program would feed right into the youth program.
Right, yeah, we're super excited. I mean, we can start earlier on our half days if we can have these meals. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the summer food program as presented.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next, we have a transportation electrical reimbursement proposal from Mr. Stump.
I know that this was an unusual winter. The cold snap was historic, something we had not seen in 20 years. In a normal transportation, we give the bus drivers a certain stipend that is to cover plugging their buses in when it is below freezing. The diesel buses need that internal heater to keep them from gelling up and start smoothly and run smoothly. This year, it was obviously not sufficient to cover with those 2 weeks that were very, very cold, unusually cold. And with that, there was some discussion that it has not been revisited in some time. So we did a quick survey of area districts, regional and areas, same similar size and similar regions, to try and get an idea of what other people are doing. And we have this proposal in front of you to make a one-time payment to compensate for the unusual cold from this winter, and then to make a permanent adjustment going forward.
I looked at that earlier today, but I can't get that attachment to open up on my little go fast here. Can you run through those numbers?
Sure. In a standard year, $40 for people who use the bus is what we would pay. It's actually a self-reported. They can claim 40, 20, or none. And we do have some that will claim the 20 instead of the 40 because they just don't plug it in that often. The proposal is to add an extra 20 to make it 60 for this year. That's a 50% increase to cover those 2 weeks. And then to make it a permanent going forward. Make it a permanent $70 going forward.
So that would start next year.
Sorry, it'd be $60 going forward, an extra $30 for this one winter.
Okay. That's what it is.
I had that backwards. Again, our winters have been relatively mild for the last number of years. It just has not been adjusted in quite some time. And then with this one year being as unusually cold as it was, we believe that there is cause to give an extra stipend.
How many bus drivers do we have total that might use this?
We are running 10 routes right now, 2 of which will end up being gas routes, so they will not need that, so that's 8. And I believe at least one of them parks theirs inside, which is very nice. But
So
you're looking at 7 or 8 potential per year.
an extra $180 a year.
Sure.
No, that's for how many months? No,
It's a one-time payment.
oh, it's just one time, so an extra $180. Okay. What's 60 per month, isn't it?
No, that's for the season.
I move that we adopt the new electrical reimbursement rate for transportation as proposed. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next is our summer academic camps.
This is more informational than, I don't even have a sample motion here for action. We are looking at the potential of doing summer camps, summer academic camps. Apparently, summer jam was one of the terms used previously, and I included a mock-up of a recruitment bulletin is in your packet. I worked up a budget for the stimulus grant that we received and are currently working on. And I also included authorized uses for that grant, which is called the ESSER grant. They love their acronyms. The first money that we received was called the CARES Act, which was really ESSER 1. We're now on a second one. And the authorized uses are listed there. There are 15 of them. One of those 15, and I've highlighted them as on your sheet, but one of those, number 12, talks about areas in which students have fallen behind, and number 11 is specific to summer programs, summer learning, supplemental, or after-school programs. So this fits perfectly within those authorized uses. With the disruptions due to COVID, there were people who fell behind, who were not able to either log on or were just having trouble adjusting to the stresses and distractions of teaching during COVID, learning during COVID. It has been a number of years since we have done summer school. It died a natural death, according to what I've been told, or as just a lack of interest. And I think a big piece of that is your summer programs with the Assyrian Gypsum youth programs. And we certainly would not organize ours to compete with those. We would want to work in tandem with those. There is some basic frameworks of what we're looking at. We're looking at 4 days a week for 3 weeks at the end of July. This is all preliminary. None of it is set in stone at this point. It's going to be 12 days. It would give everybody about 2 weeks before school starts in August to, jump into the summer camps, then have 2 weeks off and then start school. But it would give them some extra exposure. We are trying to look at project-based learning, things that can be multidisciplinary, bringing in some teachers who are electives teachers to try and bring in some extra types of perspectives, things like a shop or woods teacher to talk about, instead of just drill and kill on fractions, let's read some tape measures and talk about, things like that as far as being able to do fractions and things like that. So the teachers are trying to design this. I'm looking at a rough estimate budget of $30,000, maybe $40,000 per summer. My proposal would be that we do this coming summer and summer after, and then we reevaluate how much is left in the different stimulus grants that we have, and whether or not we're getting good representation. I would like to get some feedback from the board. We do need to start recruiting students. We have a fair number of teachers that we think we can pull this off, and it all depends on the student interest. We are looking at K through 8, and this would be next year's group of kindergarten through next year's group of 8th grade. And we would, depending on interest level, we'd probably be looking at across age groups and across curricular groups so that we can make it as productive as possible.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't extend that to high school students?
There was a feeling that we would not get much interest, that the high school students would see it as a punishment or see it as just something to take away from their summer. Excitement level seems to dwindle as students get older. And
so you're looking at it as an optional thing, not a recommended school based on data?
We would recruit, but we were not looking at making it mandatory in any way. We would still run the summer school credit recovery for the high school. That would be at the beginning of June. We would still do that as we normally would. But we didn't feel like we would get enough interest from high school students to make it work.
I've been doing a lot of reading about this subject and thinking about getting kids ready for college and what our sophomore, junior class has missed by having 18 months of different learning styles. So that's just why I was asking that question.
Good point.
Now, go ahead, Steve. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you just say that we were going to go ahead and have in June
The credit recovery, yeah.
our credit recovery and summer ed?
In June, we will do the normal summer school that we do. Those are for students for credit recovery to make sure that they stay on track for graduation.
So that's 9 through 12.
And that is actually 7 through 12, although we don't get a lot of junior high participation.
So,
And I'm just trying to think through some things. You know, one, I wonder if we have a really big problem, is 3 weeks enough, 3 hours a day? That's the question I would have. And then you said about the summer youth program. How many hours a day does that summer youth?
A couple days will be 11:30 to 3:45, and then the other 2 days are usually like 9 or 10 to 3:45 to 4:30. So we try to split it up where you're not there all day, every day.
Well, see, and I didn't know whether for parents, if there's a way to interact them together, that having a full day would be attractive and maybe you get more participation because it's a full day, so it's easier for the parents to plan. I'm just thinking outside.
It really, you're thinking of starting at late July, right?
We're thinking about starting late July.
Yeah.
So the programs traditionally have ended at that last week of
I'm
July.
saying is there a way, maybe there's a rethinking, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I can't disagree with that just because in the latter part of July, we do try to find inside events. I mean, so that is a good idea because I've been working on the schedules all day along with everything else. And yeah, like we're going bowling, you know, and then go to the park and we go to the Music Man. So yeah, things like that, where if we could go a couple days a week, then.
Well, maybe it actually dovetails in, you know, they were gonna go to summer jam and it's gonna be project-based learning where,
Yeah,
you know, it makes it sound more fun.
yeah, no, I don't think that's
Trying
a,
to think outside the box.
I don't think that's
The
a bad
original thought
idea.
was that they would spend the morning with us, we would give them lunch and drop them off at the summer youth programs, they'd spend the afternoon there, and that would break up their day.
That's kind of where I'm trying to get.
Yeah, no, if you do morning, we would be more than happy to collaborate with that, I think. Because really, we don't have a lot of mornings planned in the later part of July because of the heat. We just do the lunch and then we do something in the afternoon. We have some community services that we're doing and some museums.
What's the, I mean, was it 3 weeks kind of a budget thing, or do you think that's enough?
I think 3 weeks was about as much as we could manage to staff.
Okay.
The teachers need their summer break as well. And we didn't want to dominate the summer to the point that, again, it was a burden. We want the kids to be excited. We want to get them in there and get that jump start going, get their minds focusing, and get what we can out of them real quick.
You know,
I think that's a good idea, Dwight. I really do.
I just thinking about our bronze score, and yeah, we graduate everybody, but readiness to graduate is a bronze, and it's not going to get any better. I'm just always focused in on that, so I apologize for that.
I think we could make that work. If you can make your program work, we can, because I'm looking right here in our mornings that we have planned, it's stuff that can be moved to an afternoon, and we have an early dismissal because of the heat. So, not a problem. We can get together on that, Roger, if you guys decide to go forward.
We're going to have a couple more meetings in which we work through some of the details, but we would need to start recruiting students to get head counts by the end of this month to make sure that we know whether or not we've got enough to go, or if we've got so many, we're going to have to split groups and add groups. Because at this point, we haven't done this in so many years that we're not real sure what the interest level is going to be. Now, with this, and we're talking about a budget of $30,000 to $40,000 to run this camp. That is to pay the teachers, possible paras, have a few extra teachers there that would be more of your electives teachers that would, you know, bring in art and bring in hands-on projects, and it would also include transportation. So we would go get them, bring them in for the day, and then take them either home or to summer camp afterward, and then feed them as well. Because we just talked about the summer breakfast and lunch program.
Mhm.
So, just the summer camp part of it, which would be transportation and, the curricular stuff, teacher staff, should be in that ballpark range.
Well, I mean, if we went if we went 10,000 over, it ain't gonna kill us, we can handle that.
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
When we were doing Kickstart Camp, we were seeing those kids that were struggling at the front end of the school year, more on an even playing field with their peers at the front end of the school. So they've kind of gotten that mindset back. And so I loved it when we did that before, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think so, and
Parents send the kids here.
well, and if we can get 30 kids, I mean, we have pre-enrollment going on right now. We're doing actual enrollment the last Wednesday of the month because the school doesn't have anything going on. So, I mean, we'll have numbers by the end of the month too. So.
And you make, like this deal, I mean, you told us, hey, it's optional, but it's gonna be fun, it's gonna.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell everyone that I did call Roger today and asked for some clarification and asked some questions. And when you say if we go over $10,000, it doesn't really matter. Here's my issue with this, and that is we're talking about hiring a third kindergarten teacher using COVID dollars. That is a struggle that our district has had year in and year out and is not related to COVID, in my opinion. So, and Roger also talked about having old-fashioned summer school for kids that need the help. Our kids that have been here the last 2 years need that help. But then in our update, that was listed on as being on the chopping block, depending upon what the state legislators do with our state budget. So I am all in favor of getting a third teacher. I'm just saying that my belief is that our COVID dollars should be spent on this kind of a program and ensuring that we have a summer education program for the kids that have lost over the last 2 years, and not using this as an easy way out to financially support a third kindergarten teacher that we struggle with year in and year out. And there are options, I would think.
That's very valid, I mean, and I appreciate that concept. And I mean, furthermore, you know, some of the stuff with the meals, whatever, the summer, when the COVID dollars go away, then we're not equipped to really support that moving forward.
As long as the money is available and that's what it's set there to do, it's fine.
Yeah.
At some point though, I mean, face it, whether our kindergartners are in a class of 13 or 20 is going to be the least of their worries when they get to be our age, if our government keeps throwing billions of dollars out the window like the Fed.
No, you're right, Steve. You're exactly right.
I want to make sure that, I mean, the rules are written so that you can kind of bend them to whatever you need them to and still fit. But in our district situation, this 2 teachers, 3 teachers, 12 kids, 15 kids, 20 kids has been an ongoing issue for the 9 years that I've been here on the board. And I don't want to see those COVID dollars, I'll call them, because that's what they all are. I don't want to see those dollars get used to make our lives simple temporarily and kick the kids that need the help today that have been here to the wayside. And I'm done.
Good point. So, are you saying that we shouldn't, what's your final analysis on this?
I'm saying that if we decide to hire a third kindergarten teacher, number one, if we could use some of these COVID dollars to help us for the next year, maybe two, but I think that needs to be looked at as a full-time position, not just for the year or two that we got government dollars. And I don't want to do it if it's going to come at the expense of the kids that are already here.
When you say full-time position, you're talking about the kindergarten.
I mean that if we're going to hire a third teacher, then we need to face the fact that every year we're going to have 3 kindergarten teachers, and we're going to have X number of kids in each classroom. I'm not sure that the economics for 13 kids, those few extra kids bring a few dollars in, but that third teacher is going to cost more than those 4 or 5 kids are going to bring in. At some point, economics needs to figure into it a little bit, but I do believe that fewer kids in the class is better for all the kids.
Especially K.
Especially K through, I think all the way through. The more one-on-one you can get, the better off you are.
Especially. And I want to say, yeah, I do agree with where you're trying to go, but I think the reality does mean when you're at a certain level, I don't want to, if people are having fewer kids, and it does enter into it has to enter into our thoughts. And, I don't know if you could say it's permanent, because when your contract on anybody is, do we need them or to service the students or not?
I mean, poor choice of words on my part. What I mean is that we need to look at it as another position that's included in our normal yearly budget and salaries, not just as a one-time, two-time thing because we got free money.
Temporary.
Well, no, but I don't think anybody around here, we have fluctuated between the 19 and 20, but we've done it out of the needs of the students that we are presented with, which is, we're lucky in a lot of ways because we do have a few extra students that can be pulled in, but by the same token, we have to balance that because we don't need to have half of our kids be from somewhere else, because our patrons don't want us to do that.
I agree 100%.
So I think we're always going to be
out the classes is great.
I think we're always going to be kind of forced with moving things around a little bit. That happens at every school. Julie used to have that all the time where she was.
I don't disagree with that, but I know that is a constant battle with us, and it just, in my mind, seems like we are taking the easy way and saying, well, the dollars are here, so we don't have to worry about the dollars. Let's get one. And maybe that's the right way to look at it, but part of it isn't quite right to me.
Well, and you don't know what's going to happen next year.
No, you don't. We might have 5 kids.
We may have, we're looking at a real desert with, in some ways, on some kids here and there.
Well, that's my concern, and I talked to Roger about it earlier today, and we'll just see where it goes from there.
So that transitions very well into our next subject matter. Are there any great oppositions to summer camp before we go on to staffing review and enrollment discussion? No?
So, okay, I wanted to make sure we're.
I'm all in favor of giving every chance to every kid. I'm in favor of that.
It's just the permanence of it and not setting ourselves up to have to make difficult decisions for our staff because we don't have the financial resources to continue the precedent that we have set during COVID response time.
And that other programs that are just as important don't get kicked to the wayside because of dollars.
Absolutely. So our base state aid per pupil is projected to be right around $5,000 next year, correct? So looking at our 39 students that, I guess it's actually 40, if we take what we know today, so you take that, you're talking $200,000, you divide that 3 ways for a teacher for wages, that's $67,000-ish. We can afford a third teacher with that, just with what we're being reimbursed for that number of students in those classes. So if we go to a 2-teacher situation and we say we're going to only take the 31 in district, then we have a surplus from those kids because we're not paying staff for that. So when I look at it from a financial perspective, let's do what's right for our kids. Let's give them the best start we possibly can. They're going to pay for themselves. And there's potential that there may be a few more students that come through if our trend the last several years of that enrollment comes through. So just in looking at the report that we had included in our agenda, that was kind of my analysis and thinking about what's best for our kids.
Did we not have some thought, refresh my memory, Lori, in the upper grades, like 4th, 5th, 6th, did we not have a thought that I'm just running down the road here, so I'm not saying one way or the other how I would see it, but I thought had also talked about that, well, we could go to on something up higher. We
We had talked about it, but at this point, there isn't any of those groups that would be in that position. They are all.
What's our numbers?
It's somewhere between 47 and 53.
Okay. So they were.
We looked at that, we looked at that last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I just didn't remember.
At this point, they are not, but.
So there will be some.
The current kindergarten class is being split from 2 to 3. They have 40. If that number holds when they get up to 4, 5, 6, that might be a 2-section that we would reconsolidate. If this number comes in at 40 and we start at 3, you're talking about smaller numbers, K1, 2, and then you start looking at whether or not those numbers, as they get into those middle elementaries, could be adjusted. And that would be a budgetary thing to talk about down the road as that comes forward. And one of the things that I mentioned to Steve was even if this position is not permanent as per se, we have enough turnover that and shifting of up and down within the grade levels that I think bringing somebody in, we can really benefit our program, and we can offer some stability as well.
So, and if we were faced, to his point, moving forward, a staff reduction, when normally would you announce that, or you would say, hey, we're going to have to reduce staff? When would we make that decision? Would that be a June thing?
Hopefully not. No, we would
Penalize.
we would be having these conversations about now. We would have been reviewing the numbers in March.
Isn't our risk date set, it's set by law when we have to make that.
Basically June 1st.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand everything. It looks like we're kind of on the bubble when we have to do something along these lines to make it work. And we have a place to put them, correct?
Yes, we have a room that we can make available to them.
Okay.
And I included a budget here, again, with the ESSER 2 funds that includes, because it is kind of a bubble area, we can justify in a number of different ways doing this, whether it's just because it's good for those kids or because we are addressing learning loss over the last year and a half. There is a number of ways in which we can justify it, and I can help pay for it in this way.
I think what I was just hearing though is that there's appetite for the board to not put that kindergarten teacher in this budget. Am I right? Is that what I was just hearing?
Not at the expense of, if there's dollars that those could be used for another program, I think that like Steve was talking, I agree with what Steve was saying.
Yes, I don't want to see the kids that have been here the last 2 years not get the summer help that they need if by hiring this teacher out of these dollars negates that. If we could
Yeah,
hire.
I mean, that's not what he's talking about doing. My issue with it is, if we don't have it in our budget today, and we can't afford it 3 years from now, then why are we doing it today?
So part of this will come back to, between increased costs and everything else, we could pay for this out of the general fund and give marginal, if any, raises at all, step increases almost only this year, or we can pay for it this way, have a little more flexibility in our budget, and then 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when the stimulus dollars are used up, then they'll get marginal raises because we've used it, or we'll be in a completely different budgetary way. It's really
Worse shape.
now
We're
or
shaping
there.
3 years than we are now.
We'd be in worse shape 3 years because, no, Steve's right. We need to take, Steve and Lori are right. I think you agree with. There needs to come out of, if we're gonna hire a kindergarten teacher, it needs to come out of our normal budget so that we can, I mean, we need to be honest with our teachers and not, I mean, if this is what we're gonna do, this is how big the pie is, we need to split it up, because you're right. I fully understand where you're going now, Steve, and I agree.
But I can see, right, I mean, you know, they're saying, he's highlighted many times, they're saying, use it to hire additional staffing right now.
To address COVID needs.
Right.
I don't see how an incoming kindergarten teacher addresses COVID needs.
My thought is that since we went ahead and did the extra first grade teacher, that's really extra COVID needs right there. So it's like the extra kindergarten teacher like balances that out. Like that's the way I think about it.
Incoming class has nothing to do with last year's COVID.
No, I'm talking about gonna be first graders.
Right.
We already added that
We're not talking
teacher.
about that, we're talking about.
No, I know, I'm
incoming
explaining
class.
how I see it. That's all I'm explaining.
But, you know, it's kind of like a deferred payment on a credit card. You still owe the money next year.
Or it could be like leasing. We pay for a teacher for 3 years and then we turn it away.
How fair is that for a teacher to give them?
Yeah, but we're always
Get her
in,
to get, or.
but we're always in
teacher
that
to dedicate
situation.
A good education to our kids, knowing in 3 years, they're gone.
But no, that's an
Where are they
example.
gonna go?
Yeah, that's just an
In 3 years,
example.
we will have at least 5 teachers, in that area who will step away from us. That would mean that person is not necessarily the first one to go.
Essentially.
Or the next one.
We're not in control of that.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't, but there's
I get that.
so many things that can happen between now
Yeah,
and then.
and that's,
And I also mentioned that although incoming kindergartners did not lose out on education that we had provided, they certainly lost out on life experiences and education that would necessarily be COVID related and put them behind as far as kindergarten readiness, hitting the ground running. So it certainly could be used to address. They've only heard voices through masks for 18 months, 12 months, whatever it is now. There may very easily be some speech issues from people not being clear and not being able to be heard. There's people who were pulled out of preschool or preschools that shut down.
What do our assessments say that we just finished completing?
Actually, the assessments were pretty good. But there are certainly learning challenges that have occurred for all.
I'm not saying that I don't want a third kindergarten teacher. I'm just saying I don't think it's appropriate to use COVID money to pay for it. It's my personal perspective. And I think that we every year have a surplus in our budget. We haven't had a situation since I've been on this board in 13 years where in June, we're trying to spend down to our budgetary authority. So if this is something that's really necessary, our board needs to know where we're at financially, where our budget stands, where that surplus lies, and let's put it towards the teacher instead of pushing the buck down the line and saying in 3 years we'll address that issue. And maybe we'll have retirement that'll take care of it. So that's just my opinion.
And this is just the question. Could a person use the money that we're given for that and then be prepared for the 3 years down the line? Like, I'm not real sure how the budget works, but I mean, like, save?
No.
Okay, that's what I didn't know.
That money will have to be spent.
No, I didn't know.
I think if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, I mean, I think we're all saying, we want
a teacher.
We want a teacher, but, and I think at least 3 of us, I don't know for everybody, are saying, let's just put it in the budget because that's where it ought to be, because it's expense now.
And I think that's such a huge thing for our elementary morale. Like, to have that question looming over your head every year, am I going to get to stay? Am I going to have to go down and teach a different grade level? Like, when I got on the board 13 years ago, our goal was to be 3 sections of every grade level so we could level that playing field for our teachers. They could be committed to a grade level. We could hire the best possible candidates to teach our kids and have that stability. The economy tanked. And I had to leave that kind of platform. And then it was very clear also from a space issue, our district was not interested in adding classrooms. I think we've had some great creativity in our administration and how to address that issue. That there's a way we can stabilize our workforce and give them that peace of mind. It goes back to our goal number 1, manifest a culture where every staff and student member has equal value in this space. And, so that's my 2 cents worth. I haven't heard from you.
I'm for another teacher, but my only concern is we get that teacher, where's our, my opinion, I would like to put a cap on class sizes. Because we get that 3rd teacher, say, oh, now we got another 3rd teacher, now we got 20 students and everything.
Yeah.
I would like to see a cap put on that, so it's thrown in the sand. This is where we stop.
What if they're all in districts? I mean, we have control of that coming out of there. I mean, what a great problem to have, right? I'm just double advocate.
Yeah, I think, like you said, probably our biggest problem is we really don't have that 60 kids per grade level unless we really recruited, and that's not going to be something that we should do, in my opinion. So this is going to be our life, and we're lucky that we have people that want to move out in the district, because a lot of other districts, they're shrinking, and they're going to continue shrinking because people are having less kids. And we're probably as stable as anybody, really.
So what I'm hearing is we say, let's move forward with a kindergarten teacher, but we need some more information on our general budget to know what that looks like and some of those projections as we're looking at year end moving forward.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the space and where your plans are for locating the classroom that we don't have.
This year, we've got 2 3rd grade sections that are in the basement. The 3rd classroom in the basement was used by the high school as a half-day classroom, and we're going to move that high school teacher into other quarters so that can be a full-time, because we'll have 3 sections, 3rd grade, that will have all 3 of them together again in the same hallway. And so that teacher will end up sharing space in the high school.
I guess my other question about this extra money, do you only get the money if you use it for the teacher? Like, if you apply for, like, what it's for? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, do you just get a lump sum and then you're dividing it? Or do you get everything for what you're saying. Okay, we're going to do summer jam. We're going to do this. We're going to do an extra teacher. We're going to do an extra custodian, and then you apply for that amount.
No, this is not a competitive grant where we come up with a budget and request.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's something where they gave us a budget, and then we have to come up with programs to use it. And these are some of the programs that are being suggested. We have to submit a plan in order to draw it down. But we haven't been given a budget, so our plan will reflect that budget.
And then if you don't use it, you lose it with your plan?
Eventually, but there is time.
Okay.
There is,
This isn't like last year where you had to spend it by December 31st or it's gone.
yes, that was,
These dollars go to 23, is that right?
these dollars go to 23, and then the next round goes to 24.
They aren't gonna look very hard at what you spend.
So the existing, because I'm looking at the budget just to make sure I'm understanding it right. The long-term subs that we hired this year to help us tip checks and roving, help with that, those would maintain and continue into next year. Is that what?
No, that's not what that is saying. That is saying the money to hire them ended in December, and we did not let them go. We continued them through May. So we have incurred costs from December through May, in which we will then put into this. We are allowed to reimburse for expenses going back. It's not just from the minute our plan has been approved. We are able to do that. So those dollars are dollars that we are in the process of already spending. We've spent half
That
that.
goes through May
Reoccurring.
That would go through.
without the intent of continuing.
Right. Correct.
Thank you.
So you're recouping their costs.
Yes.
Okay.
The second semester, December through May costs, because all of those dollars from the first round ended in December, and we chose to keep.
Is there need, remediation needs during the day that we don't have staff to help with?
I've included in that budget 1/8 for the elementary, 1/8 for the second.
That's what I'm talking about a certified teacher. Or is that necessary to meet those needs?
I don't think in secondary that we need a full-time certified teacher. We're doing the same to the schedule for next year, where we will have some certified teachers in the using staff that we have. But I don't think we have enough of that, at least in secondary, to do a full-time teacher. Half-time, maybe, probably, but not full-time.
Is that a need, or is somebody that's not certified capable of doing that remediation supervision?
Somebody not certified could do that within the classroom, not with the certified teacher.
Okay, so with the staff that's existing, doing that work already? Okay, same for you.
With what we'd like to do with MTSS, we had talked about that, but was not sure we could do that financially.
Staff? Okay. Can you say more about that?
We had talked about hiring a half-time certified to do reading about MTSS. So we can reconsider our group. We look at the tickets so that we get more time. Your tier one kiddos are going to be larger groups. The parents that we have in place could handle those, and have smaller groups for your tier two, which is the 3 kiddos, 3.
Half time. Okay. And so that would cost us what, 30? Half time probably?
If you could find.
Well, if you do want to do half-time there.
Would that be realistic to have one like?
Well, to have a certified, somebody that's certified K-12 would be unusual.
Well, but she said she didn't have to be certified.
True.
So if you had elementary certified, then probably would fulfill
Oh,
her needs.
Right.
Because that's the thing that I don't know totally how it's gonna work when we're gonna start doing the structured literacy at secondary, and testing every kid and how we're gonna make that work. Makes sense.
Making cool classroom schedules fit that will probably be your bigger challenge.
It's what I'm not worried about.
All these pieces move around the board.
It is. Logic puzzles, I love it.
Well, I think to me, the remediation that we're gonna need and have identified, to me, MTSS makes sense, but that's, you're working with those lower tier kiddos, putting more money there to really work towards our goal of academic growth.
What is MTSS?
Criteria systems of success. So it's looking at your learning skills. So in those tiers 1 through 4, when we're looking at the data that Kathy provided with us, it's achievement level, cognitive.
Okay.
So is that, are you taking a temporary thing because of the responsibility, or do you think permanent?
Well, I think initially temporary, and we could justify that, in my mind, a lot easier than, we're saying we've got $38,000 in this budget already for a para and $55,000 for a kindergarten teacher. If we would work that for a full-time somebody, plus we have $6,000 left, I think there's a way we can configure a budget that meets that need.
Kindergarten over the normal budget, and then free up these dollars for the extra person to help get us over the hump to try to get out of the bronze category.
And how much do we expect that a summer school program would cost us?
Well, it's in here at 30.
Well, that's the camps, correct?
Yeah, summer school's already in our budget. That's nothing new.
Well, that's not the way I understood it, that money was due.
We have
That money was subject to the state's budget and whether we took a cut or not.
That was referring to the summer camps budget, in just that the state has been trying very hard to find out how they can get their hands on that money. Including all sorts of cuts or reassignments or something in which they can reduce our funding in one hand to force us to backfill it with that federal money. It is specifically not allowed, and it hasn't stopped them from proposing it.
It failed.
It failed.
So it's not a bill right now, but, they're gonna have to put their omnibus budget together.
Yeah.
Who knows what that will look like.
And that was only a few pieces failed, and there was other proposals that are still floating around out there on how they could do that. So that was where my hesitation came from, in that, until we know what our budget's gonna be, designating all of those dollars may be difficult. It doesn't mean that we should be afraid to move forward on the things we think are most important.
But is Steve right that we have a budgeted for summer school, or is it in our budget?
It's in,
Yeah.
for the credit recovery program.
That's in the budget.
Summer camp is not in the budget.
Well, no, but that's cool.
My question goes more to, with all of the kids that have gone through this last 2 years, is that budget adequate? Or should some of this dollars go towards that?
You're saying is we
Well, I'm
show up on June
we have
1st and
space.
we go, uh-oh, we have twice as many summer school kids as we thought we were gonna have.
Well, and I think we need to look at grades and how many kids do we need to have in here?
So would you think that budget is adequately padded for our problems that we may face?
We're not seeing any greater need at this point for the credit recovery than we would in years past. So I believe that what we've got will be sufficient.
I mean, please don't take this the wrong way. Are we building that assumption off of the grades that we're seeing?
for the actual education they've received? I mean, does that make, I mean, how do we know that our third graders are just as well prepared as third grade? I mean, I know there's letter grades, but how do we know, how are we gonna know that we don't? You know what I'm trying to say?
The graders have not had a summer school option.
And I don't mean, I didn't mean to use third graders as an example. It could have been fifth, sixth, so third grade teachers don't.
I'm saying that summer school has been 7-12 exclusively.
Okay.
In the last 6 years that I've been here, as much as 10 years, we were trying to debate how many years it was. It's like 8, 7, 8 years, something like that, since we've done.
They probably left when Charlene left.
It was, I think it would last 1 year after that.
I mean, I'm just wondering though, if the grades they're receiving, I mean, are they really actually prepared for that next grade? How do we know for sure?
I think your fast bridge data is gonna be that indicator now. So we had what we had in our packet was our initial fall screening. They've since completed, right, your spring, your midwinter,
And getting.
and that data is just not,
Spring has not been.
yeah, end of the spring.
I guess I'm even talking about the 7 through 12, like what Steve is my concern. How are we gonna know for sure that we're reaching all the kids that we're supposed to reach?
That's our state assessment data.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask.
And then local assessments that they're
Okay.
using in different grade levels.
And so right now, we're on track and not any worse than we were, or we're just as good as we were. What we're saying, okay.
And I think we're in a much different situation than most schools across the state. Well, I shouldn't say most, a lot of schools across the state. We're one of the few districts that has been able to be in session the entire school year. So
We just,
that's a blessing, but we did lose 9 weeks. So
we did what?
we lost 9 weeks, and you see that in the data that Kathy provided us. When you look at where we ended last year and where we started this year.
Yeah, I just can't imagine how bad it is. You just have to go.
Yeah. So I mean, in looking at the dollars, to me, it looks like we have 99,000 that's unallocated in that other 2 budget. If we pull out the kindergarten teacher and we would utilize that para, and the remaining 6,000. Is that right? So you could figure out some remediation, certified staff, and then para staff, whatever you would need. But I think what we're hearing is we want those dollars to be used towards that function, making sure that kids know that if they need help on something that they've lost, that they have a certified teacher to help them through that.
I think so.
What I'm hearing. So you're interested?
Yeah, I can go with that.
So what else do you need from us for the kindergarten position, Roger? You want formal approval?
At this point, you could formally approve opening up the third position.
Is there a motion?
I move that we hire third position for kindergarten for the school year of 21-22.
Does that out of the COVID money or budget?
Out of budget.
Budget.
The general fund.
Okay.
Thank you, Justin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, and that was a really nice segue into our next agenda item, which includes the social emotional learning curriculum.
And I was gonna have Rhonda talk a little bit about that, but she went over to the FCCLA presentation, and she will be back shortly. There is a proposal in front of you. We have been doing social emotional learning for a long time. We have improved our social emotional learning over the last couple of years, being more diligent about it, but we have not had a K-12 aligned curriculum purchase package that has allowed us to really track data and to be consistent. We have done it through lesson planning and individual development of these. So it hasn't been as consistent with the year to year as a program would be. So at this point, our counseling staff and administration reviewed several different programs that are out there looking for what was the best fit for Southeast. They have proposed this program called Character Strong as their recommendation. I am proposing that it be purchased out of the ESSER 2 budget. It was included in those numbers. And so that would provide for the program and the training to, for all the staff to use the program. And that would get us a step forward on social emotional learning.
And is that one-time expense or is there an annual renewal fee?
There is an annual renewal fee that this includes the one-time expense of professional development plus 3 years.
Okay. And after the 3 years, it'd be,
It's $6.99 for the middle school, what it said.
yeah, plus $6.99 for a toolkit and
$6.99 for high school.
$2,100 a month or a
Per
year.
year, yeah. And do you know if there were any like focus groups with students to see response to the content that is something that they could like relate to or not?
Both Haley and Rhonda indicated that they had used this program previously. So Haley has actually used the curriculum in classes with students, our students, but so there was actual teaching experience with it, and it was evaluated at that level.
I mean, yeah, I wish we could see a little sampling of what they're actually.
If you go to their website, they have a sample virtual lesson that you can go through. CharacterStrong.com.
I'd sure like to do that. Yeah, I sure would like to do that before I voted on it.
What's the order window timeline if we wait so people have time to look at it a little more before next?
We want to start training in 2 weeks.
Well, I'm going to be forced to vote against it until I look at it.
You say Rhonda has used it?
Rhonda has used it, Haley has used it, both of them spent a number of hours reviewing multiple programs, and
But Haley's leaving. Haley's leaving?
yes,
And then this price is good for 3 years. And if we don't want it after that, we start on something new, whatever.
Could you just, this little demo is 11 minutes. Can you project it so we can look at that, please?
Well, you're getting ready.
Oh, excuse me.
what about you? This is the one right here that you're looking at?
Yep.
Somebody, did you accidentally mark yourself on?
we have a thanks party.
Sure.
Are you doing well? Wanted to do a little quick walkthrough of our new character strong lessons that were designed to be delivered in a virtual or hybrid type of setting. Each one of these lessons has been broken into 3 parts: a community building feature.
Wait just a second,
Even
before I
in a
turn
virtual
around.
setting.
And Jimmy?
And I'll show you some of those new tools and strategies that we provided staff.
Thank you. Ready? Take.
They'll give you choice for students. There'll always still be a content area focus. These are going to be really focused this next year on stress coping resiliency skills, emotional regulation, empathy, along with the community building. And third part of our lesson, which is the character dare process. The character dare process is being a specific challenge. It gives students an opportunity to discuss, to learn from each other, and for the teacher to learn from the students as well. What's exciting about these new lessons is that they don't have to be the traditional 30-minute lesson. They actually can be expanded or contracted as needed. You could implement one component of these 3 parts and have it be less than 10 minutes. Or you could do all 3 and have it be 30 minutes or more. So definitely the flexibility is there, especially in this new reality of either being virtual or hybrid over the next year. We're always going to have a community building to start. What's great and new about these newer lessons is that there's choice. Students can choose from a variety of get to know and community building activities. In fact, they may find that one in a particular class that they really enjoy and come back to it multiple times over the first half of the school year. Any lesson should work both in person or virtual. In fact, if there's a schoolhouse building in the upper left-hand corner, that means that it has been written for the in-person type of situation, and all you have to do is click on that, and it will immediately change to a computer screen and give the virtual adaptation of that same activity. Any time that you want to return to the main menu and go to one of those 3 main sections, the community building, the content, or the character dare focus, you can click in the upper right-hand corner and it will take you right back to the main menu. What's different about that is instead of being used to going through slide decks A to Z or in order, it's much more interactive and allows you to jump around. Once back at the intro screen of the community building, you can toggle to each of the 3 main areas at the bottom of the slide at any point to jump to a different section. So here's an example. Lesson 2 is to do list versus to be list. We all have things that we need to do, but what about that values clarification piece? Who is it that we want to be? So that after that is zeroed in on, we can ask the question, what gets in the way? Dr. Michelle Borba says things like fear and anxiety, something that there's a lot of right now in students and in staff in our communities. And that allows us to then start getting into stress coping and resiliency skills. As I look at this lesson, it does give a recommended community building activity, 2 truths and a wish, for those that need it, but there'll still be choice. Here's the title of the content area, to do versus to be, and here's the title of this week's character dare, who will you become? The objectives are here for the teacher to click through and share with their students, and then it goes into the relationships first slide.
Can you back it up and just pause it for a second? I felt like that's something I wanted to read.
Notice the,
I just wanted to read, like, he went through it so quick, I couldn't even. Okay.
upper left-hand corner is the schoolhouse building. Here is an explanation of this activity in person. But if I want the same activity in a virtual setting, I just click on that schoolhouse and it gives that adaptation to the virtual. If I click in the upper right-hand corner, it takes me right back to that initial slide where the different choices are available. Deck of Destiny is a favorite of many students in our class. Could choose a card, any card in a deck of cards, and they may say King of Diamonds. So I click on the diamond as the teacher and then the king. And here is a specific get-to-know question, community building type of question that we could use in class. If it was Brian that shared it, maybe Brian shares his answer out loud and the rest of the class types theirs in the chat or in the shared Google Doc, or it could be a part of a entry task if we're doing it asynchronously. Each one of those cards has a different question. What's really fun about these is that you can do these with your staff. As we do it with our staff and do some get-to-know questions to start the year or different activities, you're also teaching them how to utilize this slide deck as well. Go to the upper right-hand corner. Another fun one is picture prompts. Picture prompts is saying in the upper left-hand corner that it's the schoolhouse and the computer screen, which means no adaptation is needed. This would work both in virtual and in person. The idea here is someone picks a box like A2 or C6. And once that picture comes up, the job of the person is 30, 60 seconds, tell a story that connects with you related to that picture. And every one of them has a different image and gets students thinking, or even the adults, if you're doing it with them, and sharing different stories or examples, things that connect with them. Usually, students will ask quickly, what is GTKY, FITP? The fun one, it stands for get to know you, fill in the blanks. Student would choose an icon, maybe they say, I choose the music one, and then instead of maybe talk to someone and introduce yourself, they could do it in a fun way, which is introduce yourself by filling in the blanks. The student might share, the teacher might ask some follow-up questions, but it's a fun way, a different way to allow students to get to know each other. It could be multiple rounds where students are choosing different icons. The hot seat is a fun one. It has both the in-person or virtual scenario, a way to do it. If I click on the hot seat, this one, similar get to know questions, but the closer you get to 8, the more vulnerable the question is to the more surface level. So if I pick 3, pretty funny in regards to the question. If I don't like that one, I can go back to the hot seat and maybe I click 7. What did you used to think was true about yourself but have changed your mind? What changed your mind? You see a couple different examples, fun with staff, fun with students, things that you can do. And so students would get the choice each week. They might fall in love with Deck of Destiny or picture prompts or GTKY, FITB, and now they have a level of choice to begin and or use those community building exercises each time you choose to meet. I can click at the bottom to the content area. The idea of the content area is that little to no prep for the staff. The slide deck should take them through it in terms of how to lead the exercise. This one's on asking them to write down multiple things that are on their to-do list, then 3 things that they want to be about, or that they want to be today: kind, present, grateful. Eventually it leads us to writing down something that would take less than 5 minutes for each one of those things to accomplish over the next week, over the next day, and then it leads to a debrief conversation as a class. All of that is built in. Could be done virtual or in person. And at any point, I can move at the bottom to the computer. What's great about the slides, the instructions for the staff member and students are built in terms of what are the character dares, how are they implemented. Talks about the idea that everybody has over the last week or since the last time we met. That's all right. You can speak your truth. What do you think about it? What made it hard in your mind? What made it easy? If you did try it, you could reflect on the dare. What happened? Right? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about others? But each week we're going to give space to have a conversation around one of these challenges. How do we take these abstract values like kindness and put them into real practical action? This one's titled See Something New. Over the next week, try to see one new thing each day that is positive and record it somewhere. Write it down, take a picture or video. The idea here, backed by research, is it's hard to have a negative thought and a positive or grateful thought at the same time. But if we gave some real practical strategies, things to try during these uncertain times, we have the conversation about it, whether they did it or not. But once again, that's okay, but every student gets a voice to share each week, and then you give a new challenge for the week. This one is a commitment character there. Over the next week, try to create a daily to-do list and to-be list with at least 2 items on each and aim for 100% completion for 5 consecutive days. And then there's a simple closure activity, a quote to discuss. What does this quote mean to you? You may have to fight a battle more than once to win it. Just a little walkthrough of one of our virtual lessons. We're going to have weekly lessons available to start the year, the first 16 weeks. And then we will continue to work on creating another set of 16 so our schools have those as a resource along with the other lessons that are already a part of the curriculum. At the middle level, it's 35 lessons per grade level, 6 through 8, that are all vertically aligned. And at the high school level, it's 25 lessons per grade level, 9 through 12, that are also all vertically aligned. These extra 16 to 32 lessons that were built to be more in a virtual space will automatically be added to that. There's no extra cost. It's just being responsive to the needs of our staff and our students and our families. Thank you for watching, and please let us know if you have any questions. You can reach out info@characterstrong.com.
Thank you for taking the time to do that. Does that help answer some questions, right?
Yeah, they didn't get into much of the nuts and bolts, but.
Well, I have a lot of data on it now that I'm back.
Yeah, that'd be great. You wouldn't mind sharing?
So on the secondary side, which is 6 through 12, is the way they have it aligned, it's basically in 3 parts: the knowing, the doing, and then the outcomes from those. So it's like the emotional understanding. I don't have it on a projector, but emotional understanding of how do we feel, and then doing that, how do we act? So we know how we feel, but then how do we act with those feelings? And then your well-being is the outcome. Empathy, one of the huge knowing parts, the ideal. And then empathy leads to compassion, how do we care about people or others or things, or how do we care about anything. And then values is another one. Who are we? And then our purpose. What do we do with your values? And it's not teaching them or telling them what their values are. It's helping them to figure out what their individual values are, like through discussions and those things. And then what do they do with those values is the doing part. Goals, what are the dreams that they have? And then habits, the actions that are going to get those to those goals and dreams. And then leadership, developing things and through that, and then teamwork of using your leadership to build teams and be a part of a team. And then the 3 major outcomes are well-being, belonging, and engagement. So their own mental health, well-being, social emotional well-being, belonging into the community, a team, the world, however big you want to take it, and then engaging into that community that you're a part of, whether it's the track team or whether it's Southeast as a whole, or whether it's Salina or Gypsum or Assaria or wherever it is. How are you engaged within that community? Those are the big things in the secondary. The elementary has, how many there are, different themes, which are courage, perseverance, honesty, respect, gratitude, kindness, responsibility, cooperation, creativity, and empathy. And those are kind of the big themes for the month, and then they have lessons built off of those. And the elementary lessons, which are the K through 5, have the observe model. So you start intentionally, engage relationally, respond with empathy, values are practiced, and exit intentionally. So there's an actual exit activity each time that you do a lesson. So I mean, that's like a summary of what they all are. We did a lot of research and we watched a lot of demos from different programs. This is the one that overall that it was Neil, Haley, and I did the majority of the research and watched the demos and talked to those people that was flexible for individual staff members, but also would meet the needs of the tier 1 kids, which everybody. There's lots of programs that are more intensive for kids at tier 2, tier 3 that have much more trauma, much higher needs. But these were this one's the one that did the best with, for the whole community, in our opinion. The really good thing about it is a K-12 program where there's not a lot that are K-12, so you don't want to have that disconnect between when you change. K-5 is a very different organized program, and then 6 through 12 they've made it different because kids are tired of it, and it's elementary and it's babyish, and so they've definitely made it different at 6 through 12, which is a very good thing. It also is very much aligned, like this activity is done in 9th grade, then the next activity will be done in 10th grade that will build on that. So it's not repetition on the things that need repeated, but then building on them and making it better fit the age appropriateness of each grade level. So it does build each grade level of clear up to K through 12. The one thing I really like about it is it's designed by teachers, educators. 2 of the guys are previously teachers, one was a previous board member in their community, and these are the people who have come together to design the program, which I liked a lot because they understand kind of what we're dealing with students. And like they referred a lot to the things that they do with seniors, within seniors, because they're like, you got a senioritis and they're ready to be out of here and they don't want to be doing this. So it does a lot with them of transition from secondary to after secondary, whatever that looks like for that individual kid. But it really seems to target what's happening at that grade level. And the examples that we saw, which we saw a lot of more specific ones, because we did an actual organized one-on-one meeting with the creator or whatever he is, I don't know what the title is in the company. And so they talked a lot about specific things that we do just in 9th grade because it's a transition into high school, just at different levels. If there's something more specific you want to know, I'll try.
They mentioned it's designed for hybrid and virtual learning. So is that how we're going to use it?
No, just those specific 16 lessons are new ones that they've done.
Okay.
Because of remote learning last year. But
okay, that's what I was like.
35. I think middle school 35 and high school is 25. I can't remember elementary.
And then can everyone use those 35? Like it's not 35 people, it's 35 lessons for everyone.
Right.
Okay.
In middle school, there are 35 lessons for 9th and 7th graders, 35 for 8th graders.
Right, great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out how it works. Is it one-on-one? You're doing it in a classroom.
Right.
And then you still have someone share it? Like, because they talked about sharing someone in the hot seat.
Well, the kids would share during that activity, and the teachers can randomly select. Elementary, what the plan was, and I don't know how much it'll change, but is that the counselor in elementary does specific lessons. Was it once a week she goes into each classroom? And then teachers will also be in on that and can follow up with different little activities because they're quick 5-minute things they use in their morning meetings or however those teachers see best to reinforce it on a daily basis within elementary. And 6th grade will do it more like that also, even though they're in the secondary model. 7 through 12 will do it during seminar time, which we're making some adjustments to the high school seminar time. And so those groups will be small. At least during what we're going to change the name to advisory time, and they will be by grade level and there'll be like 4 or 5 teachers that'll have all the freshmen, but then they'll be divided up into small groups, and they'll do it then. The other thing that's I really like about this program is they will send which is part of the quote, they will send somebody out to do in-person training with our teachers. Because some of our teachers are like, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a social emotional person, I need to know how do I do this, how do I facilitate these conversations. And there's a 3-hour training for the elementary staff and a 3-hour training for secondary staff that we wanted to get folks. We have a plan for making it happen if it's all approved. So they will send, Character Strong will send a trainer out and train our teachers. The best way to do that, how to facilitate. And then obviously the counselors will support the teachers throughout, but they will have some intensive training at the beginning before they're expected to do this with kids.
And then what do you do with the kids who don't want to participate?
Well, it's part of their day, they get to participate. I mean, that's partly.
I mean, it's a normal day in your life, I'm assuming. You have kids in every single subject and sport that don't want to participate.
And that's part of why we're doing the advisory like that. Part of those activities, they'll be meeting all the time with that teacher, and then part of that role is to build relationships with that group of kids. So you find a way to engage them. I mean, that's a teacher's role all the time. There's always kids who don't want to do things, you're right. But find a way to motivate them and engage them, and maybe it's at the beginning they're not talking a lot, but maybe they're listening and but there's a lot of games and things within this too where they don't realize that they're sharing feelings, and so it gets them involved without like putting them on. There is a hot seat thing, but there's a lot of things that aren't putting them on the spot that gets them involved, and sometimes at the beginning they might just be listening. They don't want to talk.
Right. So
okay.
the teacher is only going to call them if they're offering.
Right.
Okay.
And I know within one of the things that we saw too, it was like you always have the option to pass.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's nice.
It's my turn, but I could pass, and I'm comfortable talking at that time.
And then are you going to group the kids? Like you and Neil will go and be like, okay, this teacher would be good with this group of kids. And like, are you going to do it that way? I mean, did they show you how to do that?
We haven't talked about that with Character Strong. Our plan for advisory is that, say there's 5 teachers that have all the freshmen, that the 5 teachers will kind of help to figure out how to group the kids by, like the first couple weeks, it'll kind of just be, maybe not a couple weeks, first week or 2, I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of a work in progress,
right,
as far as specific details. But those teachers will also have a say to say, you know, yeah, I really connected with this kid, or I had them in junior high. So you have high school teachers that to help, they'll kind of self-select. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With us.
Yeah, no, which I think is a great idea. That's why I was wondering, like, could these two, yeah.
There'll be some kind of sample activities at the beginning that might be the whole group, and then we figure out how to divide them. With, Neil and I involved, but mainly the teachers that are working with that grade level, having a lot of say into who goes where.
Okay.
And they'll be able to be moved too. I mean, we're not encouraging teachers to keep them for at least 9 weeks, but if there's really a bad mix, whether it's the mix of 2 kids together, or maybe it is between the teacher and that a specific kid, then we can move them to a different one within that freshman group. It doesn't have to stay permanent forever. There's going to be exceptions. I mean, we want them to stay to build those relationships, and the teachers will rotate through them all the way from 9th grade till 12th grade. They'll stay with their group, and then they'll go back to freshmen. But if there's going to be exceptions where it's like, okay, there's a problem here, we need to move this one kid, we'll obviously work with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm sure I just missed it, but what's staff's feelings? How does the staff feel about this program?
They don't know a ton about the specific program yet. They know that we're getting an SEL curriculum, and their biggest thing is don't dump it on us, give us some training, which is what we want to do. So it was actually staff. I had a volunteer committee to figure out how to rework seminar and how to get more SEL in and more career stuff in. And I actually ended up with 16 staff members that volunteered for the committee. And they're the ones who made the decisions about how to change the seminar so that we can get more SEL in there. And they're actually, at the faculty meeting on Wednesdays when they'll be introduced to more.
Other questions?
I hear, I think, a little bit about what Jill's asking about. There's some vulnerability in this, right? And so there's risk in that, and there's tremendous risk and tremendous power. And so I think it's important, and this is part of the training, I'm sure, that the youngster is not up there and being vulnerable, and everything in the classroom looks fantastic and in order and caring and trusting, but then once they get to the playground, that vulnerability then is attacked. And that's a very risky setup, right? And so I'm sure that that's covered in the training, but it's just in my mind.
That's a good point. Other questions, comments?
And then it says here, educator, personal day, full day, speaking free. So we'll, like, a personal development day, our teachers will do this?
I don't know what you're seeing.
Okay.
This is the $4,000 one-day PD.
That's when, the trainer comes in to train our.
But are we gonna do something for our teachers? Because something I do hear from students is, Mrs. Smith has been in a really bad mood this week. So our teachers and our educators, I think they need it too. Because they're just as vulnerable. And I was like, maybe they just had a rough day a rough week at home. It has nothing to do with you guys. So that's something that I think is very important too.
Yeah, and that was one of the other things within, and it's not on that demo, I don't believe, I didn't see the full demo, so I'm coming back, but, there is, in the secondary thing, and actually it might be in the elementary thing too, I can't remember. I tend to focus on the secondary when we were doing this for some reason. There was community activities too that definitely we can use it in staff meetings, staff trainings, and that was another component or a choice on the lessons.
I wrote down we should do a few in our board meetings, this community building thing.
Yeah.
And
there is definitely a community building component in there, which is another thing that we really like, because our staff does need it for their own self-care and.
Right, yeah.
Not as far as how to teach it, just for them to be able to have that. And there's lots of community things built into the program that we can do with staff.
Anything else?
I'm just scared for our elementary kids is all. I just feel like they're so vulnerable anyways. When you mention like the playground and, kids are mean. We've said it before.
This gives you language to feel like that.
Well, in first grade, how much language,
treat each other.
I just don't know in first grade how much language a person, I don't know.
And I think there's already social emotional learning going on if it's not a set curriculum, it's not organized. The social emotional counselor in elementary is having to design that all herself. And put it into this with, so it's not like it's not already some social emotional things not happening. It's, social emotional life skills, how to get along is a huge part of elementary, well, all schools, but especially how to get along in a social group and all that. So there are already lessons happening through the counselor. It's just, this gives us a set curriculum that helps us to make sure it's intentional and sequential, and the training will help our teachers to know better how to work with the kids in both settings, the classroom and playground.
Anything else? Is there a motion?
One question, sorry, Lauren.
That's okay.
I can't remember, refresh my memory on, the 6 through 12 is gonna happen in plant time or whatever it's called now.
7 through 12 will help happen always in the classroom with the counselor.
And seminar is when they can be doing homework and getting extra help with other teachers, right? Okay, when is it gonna take place from K through 5?
We're gonna start after during their council. They have,
So what are we taking away from?
they're not, we're already doing.
They're already doing,
They're already doing.
it's just a structured program. It's aligning. I love that it's aligned. So, you know, lessons that you're talking about in a family, you know, that you have kids at different grade levels, but those can be dialogue. I don't know, is there a parent engagement component that you can send materials home?
Yes.
For that purpose, you know? I love it when I have that common thing to ask the question, I know you did this at school today, what are your thoughts? And have that unifying experience around the dinner table. Or in the car driving to an activity or.
Like, most kids are at practice of some sort in the evening, so seems like everyone I know that has elementary kids, they're playing something.
Other questions? Or motion? I'll move to approve the purchase of the Character Strong curriculum K 12. For second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Right.
Motion carries. All right. Next on the agenda is our progress monitoring report. And we have some data provided to us for review. How do you want to proceed, Mr. Stubb?
Yep.
You have this in your packet.
Okay, I'm just looking at a lot of different data of what's happening in high school and things that we're offering to kids and how much they're taking advantage of that. Concurrent credit is one of the things that has grown a lot over the last few years. So these are, this one is right now, this semester, the classes that we offer that they take here from our teachers, but they also, and they earn high school credit for, but they also can earn college credit for, which is optional, and kids have that option to decide to earn college credit or not. Some of them, not often, but sometimes there's some who choose to just do high school credit for some of these. But those are just broken down by the classes and what hours and credits that they're earning. That's from fall 2020. You'll notice there's not as many classes in the fall as there is in the spring because all of the 5 credit hour courses for college, they need the hours from all year, but they only get credit during second semester. So that's kind of why that's like that. And then the next one is just over time to show how it's increased from fall 2017 until now. So we're offering so many more college credits and kids are taking more and more advantage of that because they're realizing the advantage of paying $79 per credit hour instead of paying $500-600 per credit hour.
Can I share a personal experience about this?
Sure.
So Madeline is a freshman by age at KU. She's actually categorized right now as a junior because of everything that she brought in. And because of that, she is able to explore actual content instead of just taking general ed. You know, she's been trying to figure out what to declare and really been able to explore instead of having to take a math class or having to take a literature class. And so that was an added benefit that I really hadn't thought about. We were looking at, you know, saving money is a great piece of it. But for those kids that don't, you know, they're a little undecided, they don't know where they're going. We were concerned that, you know, what does that look like when you have all your gen eds out of the way and you're still trying to find yourself? Well, it's turned into a really big blessing for her. So, yeah.
And I'd add 2 more things to that as far as the benefit of doing this in this way. One, most colleges enroll by by credit hour in a declining reverse order. So if you are an incoming freshman coming in with 40 credit hours, you're enrolling with the sophomores and juniors. And your classes, your sections aren't going to close. You're not going to have your schedule all messed up. You're not going to be locked out of classes you want because you're enrolling ahead of everybody else who's coming in. And as you were saying with exploring, what I'm seeing is a lot of these students are starting to look for minors, and it allows them not to just graduate with a bachelor's, but with double bachelor's or a bachelor's and a minor or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly where she's at. Her first undergrad degree will be completed next fall, minus 2 foreign language semesters. So going into law school will look good to have a double major.
So there's the concurrent, and then we also have some kids that take online college classes, just because we don't offer something that they have, because it is, or it's not offered this semester when they're ready to take it. Because there are definitely a lot of things that we can't offer. So we do have kids taking online, and this is, that was from first semester, how many online credits we offered. Then the next one is second, now currently during second semester, kids that are taking online. And it just lets them do so many different things, the ag, marketing, those kind of things that we don't offer at the college level. And they can experiment with those and explore different things in kind of more in their own time, and also in a cheaper way. Which those are not, most of them aren't Line of Tech. There's a few that are, so they're a little bit more expensive, but definitely not as expensive as when they're there. Dual credit, so those are our kids that go to Line of Tech, to the campus to do the different programs. This year we've had 7 seniors and 14 juniors doing the dual enrollment. There's a breakdown of what it has been this year. So we have seniors, one that didn't start business administration till this year, so that person is in their first year, and then another one that started it last year and will graduate with their associates here in May at the same time they graduate high school. CNA and CMA have become more and more popular for seniors. We've had 1 first semester and 4 second semester, and those 4 are all doing CMA. So they're going to have that second certification, the certified medication aid, by the time they get out of high school. They already got their CNA. Auto collision, we've got 1 student who will finish that program in May, which is, it's a certificate program, not an associate program on the auto collision. And then the juniors, it breaks down. We've got a lot of juniors going, and it's just a great thing for them. There's all of welding, machine tool. We took sophomores on a tour to Line of Tech that are thinking about the dual credit so they can see the programs and see the facilities. So that's already happening as we're doing enrollment already for next year. And I think we'll have even a bigger group next year go. It's a great thing for them to do. And then ACT data. So this is kind of the same data, just in a chart and then in a graph. So this is comparing our Southeast data to Kansas from 2002 up till 2020 on the specific. We're above the state average, sometimes more than others. And 18-19, there was a drop both in our scores we didn't actually drop, but, and also in the state, because that was the year when the state started paying for all the juniors to take it. So we had bigger participation sometimes from some kids who wouldn't have taken it if they had to pay, but they did take it because it was free and offered here at school.
It was 2012-13 when we made the switch to the college career ready standards and moved away from.
I don't know who knows that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone here would know that.
Is that right, Roger? Well, he was principal. He would have been teaching us. Or
You were principal?
not here.
Oh, I was like,
I'm not saying us at Southeast.
The state made the change.
State made the change, which other people call, we call it Kansas Career College Ready, but other people call it Common Core.
Right.
Well, but these would have been seniors, so they wouldn't have had that curriculum very long.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is we were teaching to a test. We were teaching, that was No Child Left Behind era.
Right.
Those dips is what I'm saying is there were transitions taking place.
No Child Left Behind and then kind of.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that was in that 10, 11, 12 kind of window.
It was. And that was in last year's Line South, and we just started it.
Thank you, Leslie.
The next goes to break it down by the different, score tests. So this is the math assessment, our math assessment scores compared to the state, and then the benchmark score is the green one, which doesn't change. There's English, the same type of thing. Reading, again, science. And then positive scores compared to our other schools in our area or in our league. And I just kind of highlighted in 2020, we were at 21.4, Minneapolis was exactly the same. And then I highlighted the ones that were above us, just so we could kind of see that as a comparison and how many we were above. And that's all our league schools plus the area schools. And there's just a graph of that over time, which is probably really hard to see. the meeting should be in for the last 30 minutes.
To refresh his browser.
I will tell him that.
Restart his computer.
We're green on our.
I've been good about not checking my text messages. So anyway, the transparency bill defines anything as revenue neutral as being by the penny. We've been very conservative on our collection and being very careful with how many mills that we collect. Basic inflation means that if you want to maintain, you have to collect at least inflation over what you did last year. So unless we are reducing, cutting, eliminating, the only way to maintain will be to collect more dollars year after year after year just to keep up with inflation. So essentially, we are going to have to, and this is very difficult, we're going to have to create a budget within the first 2 weeks of the new fiscal year. If it is not revenue neutral, which there is like a 0% chance unless you are a declining enrollment district that is slashing, that you will not collect more revenue year after year. Again, if your property value goes up by $1 and we don't change it on a single mill, you will pay more in taxes. It's just inflation. We will have to have our budget submitted to the county by the 20th of July. The county will have to send a letter out to every single tax-paying patron saying that you're going to pay more and by how much. That letter is going to cost thousands of dollars, which means they're going to have to raise their taxes so that they can pay for a letter to tell people that they're raising taxes, which is going to happen anyway. It's called inflation. Then we have to have so much time in order to hold a hearing. We already hold a budget hearing. The transparency for school districts is already there. It's built into the law. But we'll have to hold another hearing, and then we'll have to certify our budget after that. So they've pushed our budget into September for the final certification instead of August, because they've got to give us time to have that extra hearing in the meantime and calculate it and send the letter out and give plenty of time for people to come in to the hearing, which nobody has previously. Maybe with the letter they'll start. For 2 years, that falls on the county. I believe after that, it falls on the district to pay for it. And again, we're talking, could be $10,000 that we have to pay to direct mail every single tax-paying patron within our district to tell them that we're collecting $10 more in taxes over what we did last year. It's a very troublesome thing that's going to be very difficult. Again, we're going to be scrambling in July, and we're going to have to approve a budget in multiple stages, which is going to be very difficult. And again, they haven't passed a budget yet at the state. So it's going to be mid-May before we even know what they're projecting, and then the state has to produce the software in which we can calculate it, and then we have to go through and make our decisions on what to do. And we're going to have to do all that earlier now because we've got to get it to the county, and the county's got to be able to calculate. And even if we reduce mills that we collect, it's likely that people are still going to end up paying more in actual dollars. It's very common that we would reduce our mills by 1 or 2%, but property values will go up by 2 or 3%, and the net effect is, even though we're collecting fewer mills, your taxes went up by a few dollars. Again, the only way we could avoid that is if we, year after year, slash and cut, because basic inflation is going to say we will collect more dollars year after year. Okay, so I want to tell you that this summer is going to get hairy for us in the district office, and then you're going to have to come along with us on this ride, because we're going to have these budgets done and decisions made a whole lot earlier than we normally do. Okay, I included in your packet the spreadsheet that we received from the State Department on the ESSER funds. I will point out, it's on slide 2. ESSER 1 was $85 million. ESSER 2 was $370 million. So in our first round, which was called CARES locally, we received about $50,000. It's a little less than that. ESSER 2, we received about $190,000. You can see the difference here between the $85 million and what it equates to us, and then $370 million, what it equates to us. ESSER 3 is designated as $830 million. We have to spend ESSER 2 by September of 23. We have to spend ESSER 3 by September of 24. And that's some of what the budget I gave you is relating to. There's some information here on what those dollars are going towards. But our district allocation is what we're worried about, and we're still working on that budget. And we will continue to work on that budget. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
What are you think? I know we discussed a little bit, Mr. Stump, on our discussion about LOB and those decisions from the board. Thinking about next month on that. What's on your mind?
We can start those discussions in May. Again, we're gonna have to have those discussions a little bit earlier, but a lot of it's very difficult to have in-depth conversations until the state passes their budget and we have a good, strong feeling of what that does to us and for us. And some of those also come back to how quickly we can get the county assessment data, which we won't have that by May. Isn't that normally June? So it'll be hard to have an in-depth discussion about what we want to do and where we want to go until we get that data.
The legislature reconvenes on the 3rd, and our meeting will be on the 10th. So,
Probably June.
yeah, unless we want to call it special. But again, we're going to have to project. We won't have any idea probably on the 10th.
That's right.
We'll have a better feel for like dialogue and maybe where things stand, but a 2-year budget has been a lovely thing. You can plan ahead and here we sit.
Here we sit.
Yeah, that, for the 1 year it lasted, 2-year budget was great.
It was lovely. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Mr. Sun? No. Principal.
On mine, I just had Kelsey email you guys all a list of the end of the year events, because there's a ton coming up and some with changes. One of the big things on there would be the plan for graduation, which we talked about at the gating committee, how to do that, still not knowing for sure what everything looks like and how that's going to change. So I will be sending that out to seniors and parents this week. And there is a asterisk on the bottom of saying that things can change and we will notify you as quick as possible if things do change. But the plan now is, graduation is May 23rd at 1 o'clock in the gym. 15 guests per graduate, and we'll make a pass list for that. Band will attend and play, choir will attend and sing. Guests will wear masks while they're in the gym. Graduates will only wear masks when they're seated, but they don't have to wear them when they walk in or when they walk across to get their diploma. But again, that's the plan as of right now, but it could change. But there's a lot of other things on there about this prom. Fruit and Choice is coming up on the 22nd. We aren't going to do the breakfast this year just because of COVID things, but we will still do the ceremony and the recognition of the kids that will start at 7:30. So we won't have the breakfast, but we will still have the ceremony on the 22nd of April. And it's prom, I think it's awards night, the community, having the senior parade through the cars, through the communities, which is organized and through Spotlight. We're not actually a sponsor for that, but we're helping advertise it, so I'll get that out to seniors and their parents also. A lot of this came off my agenda for my faculty meeting that's coming up tomorrow or Wednesday, whatever day. So, but I just thought I'd just share it all with you guys so you have all the dates and details of things also that are coming up at the end of the year. And some of it still has some question marks because things that I want to talk to teachers about, and we'll decide in the faculty, just like times for certain things and that kind of thing. But, one thing that is a big deal probably for you guys is the awards night, which is going to be just senior awards night. We are moving, it was on the calendar for May 10th. We're moving it to May 11th because it affected 3 people very closely with seniors, and May 10th is board meeting. There are no serious conflicts on the 11th. There's a junior high track meet. There is high school golf, but there's no seniors on the golf team, and it's in the line is starting at 1, so by 7, even if they have siblings, they hopefully be able to make it to the awards night if they choose to come. But we are going to move it to the 11th for board members and superintendent who might want to be at the awards night for their senior children. So that was another one that was a big change, I guess. But I'm going to get this all, the stuff that seriously affects seniors, and get that sent out to the kids and the parents here this week.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. That calendar is crazy.
Yeah.
I'll just keep looking at it all the time.
I just had a question out. So you say, so they have to name up to 15?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like such a high number. Does it even matter at that point?
There's some that are,
I mean, there'd be a lot that have 3. I mean,
Right.
we would need to bother. Or am I just missing something?
the game.
keeps our capacity at about 50%. If people don't use their 15, we might be a little bit less. Basically, it means that it's not just going to be general admission, it's going to be bypass gate.
So, I mean, so normally we'd have an average of 30 people maybe per kid. Is that kind of what we normally have? Is that what we say?
We fill it to the
Bill,
rafters.
I would say it's
Okay.
pretty full.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning at all.
Probably with staff and faculty and everything.
It seemed high enough that I'm like, well, why are we?
So would staff and faculty be able to come, or they have to be on a list?
They will have to RSVP if they want to come, and we'll,
Okay, but they'd be on the floor.
but I'd say probably it's
Oh, yeah.
kids. I mean, that's still, I mean, there's a lot of.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm not
They'll be able to get in
questioning.
close friends, but it won't be, this usually, that gym is pretty full, and
Yeah,
they make it
I know.
about 50%.
I just did, yeah, I just did.
We wanted to be generous.
Yeah. Hopefully that lets them bring everybody that's really important. It doesn't really feel like it's happening.
And then band and choir will get to be there too, is that right?
Okey-dokey.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
Will you get the posting about 8th grade recognition or junior high recognition posted also? Because I've had some community members ask me, because that was a question last year.
Yes, and that's
Yeah, it's on the list. I
right.
just
But yes,
didn't know
I'll
what
send that
that.
to 8th grade to our staff. Communications to get out.
Perfect.
I keep forgetting to let you know how awesome our business administrator's handwriting is. After spending the time, for us, and, starting like we did with lower grades and adding each year is really paid off. Sad story is, I wrote my grandson a letter, I had to get his Xbox fixed. So I sent it to him, wrote him a nice little letter to my mom next. I said, "Did you get my letter?" I said, "Yeah, but I couldn't read it. Mom had to read it to me."
Right.
Oh, no.
It's a thing. So, you did a really nice job. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to do some remediation on that. I said you could do some remediation on that. There's been a gap.
That's exciting for the handwriting. I love my handwriting. Bad.
Great.
Next.
Anything else, Mr. Sager?
I have nothing else to add unless you have a question.
Thank you for that multi-year. Appreciate that. Good. Good, okay. I think that is all for you guys. Do we need? So, okay. 8 minutes, personnel. Can we take a
Yep, we're going to.
7-minute break?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Can we make a?
Thank you. Would you like to
Thank
keep,
you.
Cassie here for the next?
Cassie?
Thank you.
Probably, yes.
You did a great. Yeah, I learned a lot. I will say that, because I've had a lot going on. We're staying, yeah. I wasn't going to. It is. Never really been fully a part of, an entire meeting, so, you can watch from the comfort of your living room, Annie. You can watch from the comfort of your living room every month. I know, right? Right.
Or this is an election year. We do have 3 seats that are up for election.
There's been a few people that have asked, because of the engagement, or the administrator, and whatever. I would try to. And I went, oh, I might be around more. Thank you.
I tell Sharice Wright that we do not have gating committee tomorrow.
No,
We don't?
no, we don't.
I was thinking tomorrow's an off week, off day.
And it was like, now, I think it's still got a board meeting tonight, so it's probably gonna eat back, guys. And I'm like, I understand, but really, are you taking her already? And I'm like, I swear to God, I need to eat it with the 6 months I probably was confused. So funny. You'll have to tell Chuck. I will. That I had a dream about him. He'll be like, what? No, if we were moving, we would have moved 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Okay.
I really encourage you.
When you had a house there?
It's on the market, or it's being sold, finally, after 4 years.
Have you been renting it?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
But it's been on the market for 4 years, and I finally, it's passed inspection, it's passed appraisal. My renter, I hope, is getting out. I'm hoping he's getting out.
Right.
I'm supposed to close on the 7th.
Good.
I'm done.
So once school's out, are we gonna go to the Blue Barn to see something?
Oh, it should, that would be fun.
I figure you're probably pretty busy up until school's out, right?
Summer's worse.
Is it? So we should plan
And then, staying a couple months early, I told Roger, I'm like, well, don't plan on any of us getting any vacation this summer. There's no way.
So we'll be gone during the school year. You can answer the phone, Roger.
Yeah, it's no. Well, even him, I mean, there's no way. We usually take,
Right.
we give first week in July. There's no way. It's work.
No, that is.
Well, and he goes early, he goes third night here, and then August, it has to be August 25th. And that's the thing, and then he loves y'all, and it's not about react, it's how he is.
So you'll be like stuck taking like a couple days here, a couple days there, between what, the end of July, beginning of August, before school starts?
I don't know. Is your son gonna graduate?
We went to coffee. I didn't sugarcoat anything.
I don't know if there's enough sugar.
It's really, I don't know.
To her house?
Yeah.
To Tiffany? Nothing personal.
We just had a summer and Davey and I would.
Well, say that cost me a little off guard, in a way. But
Oh, Dwight, I forgot to, congratulations, I told, text you.
Oh.
I just like her a little bit better than you.
He took credit for it.
Address.
I did not really take credit for that.
It was a great response.
Our break's over.
It's good. We're ready. Thank you for the dinner, snack, whatever you want to call it. Okay, do we have a motion to go into an executive session?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. For how long?
10.
That's fine, unless you have a lot of questions, and I'd ask that Cassie stay.
Okay.
We need to go from 10 to it. I'm gonna make it 7.
7. Fantastic. We're gonna go into executive session for 7 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say sign. Motion carried.
That's what Justin said.
Oh,
Okay, we are in open session.
So we can go back in for personnel, correct? Or do we-
negotiations?
Well, do we need to? I mean, do we need to? I don't.
I don't need to. Go.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you? Anyone else?
No, that's what I meant.
Negotiations. That's what we need to go into for. You can go. Thank you, Mrs. Gorman. Thank you.
I move we go
Please show me a Coke.
into executive for negotiations, because that's Teresa's favorite subject. For Ken, well, does that,
With me.
do we need that much long?
Depends on how deep we go, but yeah, that's a good start.
For a second. Jimmy, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Also, same sign. Motion carried. All right, we will be back at 9:49 PM. Additional dialogue?
We are in open session.
Anyone?
I guess we really don't need to go any further than that.
Okay, we are ready to move on then to action item 7.1.
Okay, let me unpresent. So everybody can see our smiling face.
Oops, except for me.
Okay. Action items.
I guess I move we accept the resignation of Haley Hart and the hiring of Jerry Winter.
Right, is there a second? Second. Jill,
Oh,
any further discussion?
what about, and,
You could do that separately.
okay, I'd like to do hers, by the way.
Any further discussion? No. Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Okay,
You'll just want to edit out the reference to the phone.
okay, I move that we, hire Maggie Westhoff as you want to say what position? Elementary teacher.
Thank you. Second?
Yes. Any further discussion?
No.
Matt, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Carried. All right, thank you, everyone. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Jill, second? Steve, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Carried. Thanks for a very productive meeting.
See, if you would have said Maggie and Colin, then I'd understood.
Thank you for representing us. I hate that. It's always a conflict.